Hello and welcome to some fly tying. Today I'm gonna tie a small baitfish pattern I use a lot in the Danish waters for the hunt of seatrouts. And it's a pattern I have been using for quite some years now. The hook I'm using is the Ahrex NS172. And I'm gonna tie up with some thread. This is Extreme mono thread. It's 0.14, and I'm gonna put on a small layer of thread just to have something for the materials to grab on. And I'm gonna tie it quite far back because there's no weight to it, only the UV resin actually. So I'm gonna tie it far back so I'll have enough space for making the head of UV resin and give it just a little tiny weight. And I'll put on some super glue here on the mono thread, because super glue and mono, it will actually fuse together. So and I'm trying to get a little bit of a little hump, a little ball here in the back, just to raise the materials a little bit upwards. So first of all, I'm starting with some white bucktail, and I'm gonna use mostly from the bucktail. I'm gonna use from a third down and to the tip, because when you use that bucktail, it won't flare out too much. If you use bucktail from the bottom closer to the deer, it will flare a lot, so I don't want it to flare that much. So I'm just gonna pick out, I don't know, 10-15 fibers of white bucktail. This is they've put in some UV to this bucktail, so it'll glow out quite a bit. So I'm just gonna pull off the shortest thin fibers. We don't want that. So get this nice little thin tail here. And I'm gonna tie everything on top of the fly because I want some free space under the fly for the fish to hook better. I'm not tying it that firmly because then it will flare out just like that. And we're gonna cut off the excess here. So like that. And we're looking at, let's measure it. This is 7 centimeters. That's 2.5 inch-ish, give or take. And then I'm gonna take some chartreuse bucktail on top of it. See if I can find some good pieces. This is almost gone. You can use it in the bottom, but be aware that's gonna flare out quite a bit. So if you use the materials correctly, you can manage to tie them in without flaring too much. And then I'm gonna tie this one in on top. There's a little short one there. just moisten the fingers, that'll make it easier. Just hold it on top, tie down 2 loose wraps, and go up, and I'll tighten it upwards like that. And you can tie it down here. I just don't want the materials to slip down to the side, so I'm very careful about this. And I would like this to go as far as the hook eye, so we actually expand the body into the head in the same color. There you can see that's what happens when you use this bucktail closest to the deer, because it will flare out a lot. But we can fix that when we are going to put on the UV resin, then we can have a nice shape. Then I'm gonna take some flash. This is just some crystal flash. I'm gonna take 1 strand, and I'm just gonna tie in 1 strand on each side in the same length as the fly, and I'm gonna tie it in so it will go down the side of the fly. I'm just gonna turn it around here, do 1 more on the other side, so it'll be tied in so it runs along the fly between the white and the chartreuse, and we're just gonna cut it off there. So, and moisten the fingers a little bit, and there you have it. Actually, you can just fish it like this with some UV resin for the head, but I love to have something more on the fly. I like to have some grizzly feathers, and I'm gonna tie this not on top, not on the side, but a little bit on the shoulders, if you can say that, of the fly, so it actually is tied down so it runs along with this chartreuse bucktail, something like that. Let me just manhandle this a little bit. Whoops, don't pull it before we have tightened it in. My mistake. I just twisted the feather, that was a mistake. We'll just tie it in again and fasten it. Something like that. There you actually have it, the finished fly. So I'm just gonna cut off the axis, put on some super glue, couple of eyes and some UV resin, and the fly is finished. So we're gonna, normally you can put some wax on the thread when you're tying with mono, just to get the materials to stick better to the thread and to the hook, because mono is quite slippery. So just gonna tie this one in here like that. Finish off with a couple of whip finishes. And then I'm gonna add a slight fluorescent point on the tip of the fly, just to get some more traction to the fly. You don't need it, it fishes perfectly like this, but I'm just a big fan of using something orange fluorescent on my flies. So this is a hot orange UVR thread from Symbai, It's quite thin, soft silk floss, you can call it. So I just put in a small hit of this, like that. And then I'm gonna finish off with a couple of whip finishers. Be aware this thread is very thin and it breaks like nothing, so don't expect it to be like a normal tying thread. It's a floss, but it's a very thin floss. Actually, you can just break it like that. It's very easy. So, and we're gonna put on some eyes. The thread is down on the floor. Actually, it doesn't matter right now, we're finished. So, you can pick whatever eye you want, but I'm a very big fan of these golden eyes with a little black pupil. I wanted to sit a bit far back on the fly. And it's not these, I don't use these epoxy eyes, I use these paper thin eyes, because when you put on some UV resin on the fly, on an epoxy eye fly, you'll have this bulky head, you can call it. I don't want that. I want a nice clean head, and you can only get a nice clean head if you use these kind of eyes. I just cut off these strands of chartreuse bucktail that have found their way to the underside of the fly. I don't want that, because I want the fly to look very good. If I don't think the fly is looking good, I look down in the box and I see two flies, and one is looking very good and one is kind of messed up with something. So the fly that have been messed up with something, I'm never gonna fish it, never ever. I will always pick the nicest fly in the box. So do yourself a favor and tie some nice flies. And I'm gonna take this red sap UV resin. You can use whatever you want. Red sap, you can use Deer Creek, you can use Buck Bond, you can use almost any kind of UV resin that you fancy. But I do fancy this red sap and oh, what's called the other one? I got two kinds. Oh, that's gone. I don't remember the name, but I pretty much only use two kinds of UV resin. I'm not sponsored or anything, but sadly, but I do pick my materials wisely. So now we have the UV resin on. I'm just gonna pick up my lamp because it's charging. So I'll be back in. So, and we are back again. I just forgot my lamp here. So I'm gonna pick up the materials. You can actually work with the fly as long as the UV resin is wet. And I'm gonna wet my fly just to keep the materials aligned good. And I can see this strand of flash has mangled itself with some. So I want to have the flash running down the side like that. I'm just gonna drag everything back, and then I'm gonna torch the UV resin. And as you can see, came out quite nice. There's a little something on this eye, just some extra material. So now the head is actually finished, but I would like to finish up the head so it kind of looks quite neat. Just take it slow, just a little bit of the time. You can see there's a couple of loose fibers hanging out here. I'll just cut them off. It actually doesn't do anything, but it helps my eye picking the fly in the box. And you can see it's not quite even here. So just put on some more UV resin. It's actually here you're gonna use the biggest amount of time tying this fly. That's putting on the UV resin, because if you do it nicely, you'll get a nice fly and you'll fish the fly more. It has to be a very slim fly, so you're actually gonna make a small head just like a surf candy kind of fly, without dragging the UV resin all the way back, but just a small bit here, just to make a small body of UV resin. And then a small layer covering it all up. Get a nice transformed neat head. So I think that'll do for now, and we're just gonna torch it. So the fly is finished. Moisten your fingers and take a look at the finished product. Came out quite nice actually, but I've tied up hundreds of these flies, so I do know how to tie these kind of flies. But you can change the fly in whatever color you want, but I prefer to do the white chartreuse, or you can do it in white and kingfisher blue on top, and some silver flash, and you have a small herring like look-alike fly, if you can say that. Herrings are a bit bitter, but they do come in small sizes because they have born as juveniles. So, but this is a quite good go-to pattern. You can put on some lead or whatever you want, non-lead wire, because but the non-lead wire will take up some space, so you will get a bigger fly, and there's not enough room to tie in the materials if you want a nice slim look to the fly. But you can buy some lead foil from Vineyard. Got some lead foil with some adhesive on the back. It's quite thin, and you can cut off a small strip of this lead foil and put it on the hook. It almost don't take any space, but it'll add a tiny bit of extra weight to the fly. If you found out this fly is too light for you to fish, because you have to drag it in like like fucking crazy, like a jet plane through the water. So it'll rise quite high in the water. Therefore, you have to have some kind of weight to the fly, or just skip on the surface of the water if you don't have just a little amount of weight to the fly. I'm pretty much fishing with floating shooting heads or floating weight forward lines pretty much most of the year, but I can fish with a Hoover or a slow intermediate line. But anyway, the fly will rise quite high in the water, so you have to get some weight on the fly. And the weight on the fly, in this case, is the UV resin. So, tight lines to you all. Give the movie a like, share and subscribe. I'll be happy. Share it with your friends. And tight lines out there. See you for the next one.